G-Star 2013 exhibition shows South Korea's status as a game power. What are the recent global game trends and the level of South Korea's game industry? Mid-sized companies will become a breakthrough to solve South Korea's low-growth problem. What are the government's growth ladder measures to foster mid-sized companies? We introduce the translation and interpretation technology developing day by day with ICT, such as Genie Talk, an application that interprets in real time, and multi-language broadcasting service for multicultural families. A natural herb tea that cures hangovers and takes care of health. We visit hangover drink producer Glami. The long 9 years of defection period. Why did she have to defect from North Korea despite the dangerous journey? We listen to the lively testimony of a North Korean female defector in her 20s.
Hello, I'm Andrew Salmon and welcome to Bizline. Now this week's show is all about the boost. How can government boost mid-sized companies? How can technology boost cross-cultural communication? And is there a boost that partygoers can use to cure the dreaded morning after hangover? We'll find out in a moment. But before we go to those and other features, let's first take a look at all the breaking business and economic news hitting the headlines all across South Korea this week.
Korea posted a current account surplus of around $42 billion in the first 8 months of this year, beating Japan by some $700 million. According to the Bank of Korea, it is the first time for Korea to top Japan since 1980. Korean exports of key products like mobile phones and automobiles have been strong, helping Korea post monthly exports that surpassed $50 billion for the first time last month. Korea's trade ministry said that the nation's exports hit a record high $50.5 billion last month, up 7.3% from a year earlier. The ministry attributes the record month to a surge in shipments to the United States and the European Union. Finance Minister Hyun Oh-suk announced tax incentive to help expedite investment. Small and medium-sized companies will have their tariffs reduced by as much as 20% for machinery imports and enjoy greater accounting flexibility in handling depreciating costs to help reduce tax payments until next March. Korea has been ranked one of the top places to do business in the world. It has advanced by 1 notch to 7th in the global ranking in terms of business environment. The Finance Ministry said that Korea has kept its place in the top 10 on the World Bank's Doing Business ranking for the 3rd straight year, and attributed the improved business conditions came from the government's efforts to streamline regulations for business operations.
Although it's the pop stars and the TV idols who get all the media attention, actually some 80% of Hallyu, the Korean wave, is comprised of online and mobile gaming. Now, reflecting the prominence of the local gaming industry, the world's largest gaming expo, G-Star 2013, is being held in Busan next week. Here we'll be able to see both international trends and the status of the domestic sector. So stay with Bizline as we take a sneak, advanced peek inside G-Star 2013.
Computer games have become part of our daily lives ever since the distribution of personal computers. And with the development of mobile devices and the internet, digital games have grown to become one of the most lucrative businesses. As such, South Korean game developers and publishers are also working day and night to be part of the growing global industry. In order for them to succeed, they need to find prospective customers. And for game lovers, they want a place to test the best games and discover the latest trends. And in Korea, there is a perfect event to meet those requirements. Global Game Exhibition G-Star 2013 to be held at Busan's Bexco for 4 days starting on November 14th.
네, 우리나라 게임 산업이 모바일과 온라인 게임 중심으로 세계적으로 성장을 하고 있습니다. 그러한 게임 산업의 성장과 발맞춰서 우리나라의 게임 산업을 대표할 수 있는 게임 문화 상품으로서 G스타를 탄생시키게 되었습니다. 매년 참가 기록을 갱신하고 있는데 올해도 그 기록을 갱신했습니다. 올해 32개국에서 512개의 게임 기업들이 참여해서 올해 G스타의 B2B 간과 B2C 간을 풍성하게 만들 계획입니다.
Game developers and industry participants are coming from around the globe to take part in G-Star, which is entering its 10th year.
We meet a lot of gaming companies at G-Star, and we make a good contacts, not only Korean companies, but also international gaming companies. So this is a really good spot where you can make a networking and meet many gaming companies.
Companies from abroad are showing keen interest in G-Star after experiencing very positive output from previous visits and hoping to find more partnership opportunities with Korean game companies.
Well, last year the 4 companies were very happy with the results. They had a very good performance. One of them got a very good contract for developing a new game for Korea. So we think this year we will have similar results. Last year our 4 companies, they had a lot of enough business contacts for them to be able to find a good business. No? And this year I heard the B2B area is going to be larger, even larger. So yeah, our main interest is the B2B.
The number of participants have been growing over the years, and in 2012, nearly 300,000 people visited the G-Star exhibition. And with the rise of visitors to Korea's biggest gaming event, the number of companies that take part are on the rise as well. Some 430 game companies took part last year, striking deals worth about $150 million. This year, G-Star is expected to be an even grander event. There will be nearly 2,300 booths, a rise of 7%, and it includes some 730 booths for business-to-business deals, and that is an increase of more than 40% from last year.
B2B 간이 작년에 대비해서 참가 업체 수가 약 40% 이상 대폭 상승을 하였다고 하였습니다. 이 말은 국내뿐만 아니라 해외 여러 업체들에서 가장 큰 관심을 가지고 있고 또 이 G스타가 비즈니스 목적을 달성하고 있는 가장 소중한 기회가 되고 있기 때문입니다. 이런 G스타 비즈니스 기회를 통해서 기존 파트너십을 맺고 있는 업체들과는 기존 진행 중인 업무에 대한 이슈 또는 새로운 사업 기회를 모색할 수 있는 기회가 되고 있기도 하고요. 그리고 그 외에 다른 해외 업체들 같은 경우도 미팅을 진행함으로써 새로운 파트너십을 맺을 수 있는 기회 또는 그들의 시장 정보나 그들의 생각, 또 게임에 대해서 관심을 가지고 있는 이런 부분에서 많은 정보를 공유할 수 있는 자리가 있기 때문에 비즈니스적으로 많은 큰 도움이 되고 있다고 생각하고 있습니다.
And G-Star should further make strong impression on the international front.
Yes, I think for G-Star, it's becoming a bigger and bigger venue. As I travel across the world, I meet great game developers, and everybody asks me the same question: is it really worth coming? I think it is worth coming, definitely because it provides multiple value for not only yourself as a game developer or game publisher, but also to understand how dynamic the market is.
The growing success of G-Star reflects the strong performance of South Korea's game industry, which is expected to reach about $12 billion, with exports taking $303 million in 2013. South Korea has a lot to offer in terms of market growth, not just on the country level, but on the global aspects, which is estimated to grow to about $86 billion by 2016, from the current $70 billion spearheaded by smartphone and tablet games.
This industry is getting very dynamic. It's an industry where there's an opportunity to make money. As a game industry professional, I believe that we need to create games not primarily focused on generating revenues, but focus on delivering the entertainment value. And once we accomplish that, I definitely think that this industry is going to be very profitable for the creator and also deliver the entertainment factor for the consumers.
Digital games can contribute to the creative economy by creating jobs for the younger generation. G-Star is playing a growing role in the development of South Korea's games industry and for it to take the lead on the global front.
If you follow Korea, if you read the Korean media, indeed if you watch this show, you'll be aware of the tremendous angst in Korea about the role of SMEs, small and medium-sized enterprises and mid-sized companies. There is a significant feeling in the Korean body politic and in Korean society that these kind of companies are not getting their fair share of the economic pie. So what are the problems and what are the solutions? We have with us an expert to answer these questions. He's with Yonsei University at the School of Economics. Here's Professor Lee Do-won. Dr. Lee, thank you for joining us on Bizline.
Great to be here.
Okay. Mid-sized company. In Korea, what actually is the definition of a mid-sized company?
Okay. Actually, mid-sized company is a new term that we invented several years ago under the previous government. Basically, the mid-sized company lies somewhere between the small and medium-sized enterprise and large companies.
Gotcha.
So by definition, if we look at the manufacturing sector, for example, the number of employment of the mid-sized company lies between 300 and 1,000. And generally speaking, mid-sized companies' total sales volume is somewhat smaller than 1 trillion won. So that's a new category that we invented. Yes.
But that is the accepted definition right now?
That is the official definition.
Okay.
Sure.
Given that then, I mean, how much do these mid-sized companies contribute to South Korean GDP or to the employment numbers?
Well, actually, if you look at the number of the mid-sized companies, it's pretty small. We have approximately 3.5 million companies in Korea, including, of course, self-employed companies.
And these are all the mom and pop stores across the economy. Right?
Yes. But out of this 3.5 million establishment, the mid-sized company is only accounting for 0.04%, which is something like 1,422 companies altogether. However, the number of employment and also their contribution to export is rather substantial. In terms of employment, they are accounting for about 7% of the total employment as of the end of 2011. And in terms of the export, they are accounting for about 10% of the total export. So actually, their contribution to the Korean economy is pretty important. And moreover, they are growing relatively faster than the other categories of the companies.
So I'm very surprised at those figures. Clearly, these medium-sized firms are punching above their weight in both contribution to the economy, exports, and as you said, employment. So President Park has emphasized that these mid-sized companies should be playing a key role in what she calls the creative economy.
Exactly.
You say exactly. Why so?
Well, because they are important, of course. And in many senses, we look at the mid-sized company as the candidate for the future large company.
The next big boys.
Sure.
Right.
And the poor thing is, in Korea, we have not created any new large company for the last couple of decades. And we had a problem called Peter Pan syndrome in Korea. A lot of small and medium-sized companies, they simply do not want to become a large company. Because once they get out of this small and medium-sized companies category, then they lose all those benefits that used to be provided by the government. And instead, they have to embrace a lot of regulations imposed by the government too.
Okay.
So instead of becoming a large company, they
don't want to grow up.
They don't want to grow up, just like a Peter Pan. Well, that's why we created this new category of mid-sized company. We believe that by encouraging more of the mid-sized companies, we have a more chance that these mid-sized companies will become eventually large companies who will compete in the global market, just like the big guys do today.
Okay.
Yes.
The big boys, the conglomerates, the chaebol, the family-run groups which dominate the Korean economy. You say they've really been a dominant force since Korea's industrialization, but also for the last 2 decades. No new companies have entered that category.
Well, I should be fair that there was actually 1 or 2 new companies that actually got into this category, but most of them came from software
Right.
industry.
These are game companies,
Yes.
portals.
Yes.
Right.
Where there was no existing conglomerates.
Competition. Yeah.
Yes. So, but in terms of the manufacturing sector in particular,
Yeah.
I don't think we have created any new large company for the last couple of decades. So that's a problem. Yes.
Okay. Now, why is it that South Korea has such a top-heavy legacy in terms of its economic structure?
Yeah.
Why are we led by these chaebol?
You know what? To tell you about the origin of chaebol, we really have to go all the way back to 1970s, which is 4 years ago. In 1970s, Korean economy tried to bolster the so-called heavy and chemical industries. As you know, heavy and chemical industries are made by large companies, only the large companies. So that's why Korean government started to promote large companies. And in this case, we are talking about really, really large conglomerates. It is not just a single large company. It is actually a conglomerate who produce not only machines, for example, but also automobiles, chemicals, electronics. So these couple of selected large conglomerates, they actually got promoted by the government subsidies and of course protections as well. That was the start of this conglomerate in 1970s, and then they grew up in 1980s, and 1980s was the era of restructuring and liberalization policies in Korea. And throughout this process, they have become more competitive, not only in Korea, but also in the global economy. And in 1990s, they tried to upgrade their technological prowess by increasing R&D activities. And of course, in that process, they also got some benefits from the government as well. And of course, we had a setback in 1997 financial crisis, but those conglomerates who muddled through these crises, they actually have become even more competitive.
Powerful, yeah.
Yes, so that's where we are.
That's where we are. But why is it so difficult then for SMEs to break through, or for medium-sized companies to break through up to the next level and join these very large conglomerates? Are these anti-competitive issues? Is it lack of access to capital? Lack of access to loans from financial institutions? What's holding the smaller boys back?
But there are many reasons. First of all, government policy. We have a policy of protecting and subsidizing small and medium-sized companies. So a lot of small and medium-sized companies actually stay there. They do not want to grow up. That's the Peter Pan syndrome we just mentioned about. And regulations that government impose on large companies. So instead of becoming a large company, they rather stay a small company by breaking up their business unit into several small pieces. But that's just one reason. More fundamental reason is that these small and medium-sized companies, they actually lack competitiveness because their productivity is much lower than large companies. It is true that small and medium-sized companies' productivity will be lower than large companies in almost any country, including OECD countries. However, the problem in Korea is that the productivity gap between these large guys and small and medium-sized companies are getting wider and wider for the last 20 years. That's the fundamental problem that we have. And behind this productivity gap, there are many reasons, such as lack of competition in these small and medium-sized companies' business area, and also lack of R&D activities, lack of the access to more and better financial loans, and more than anything else, lack of skilled workers and professional expertise.
That's an interesting point. The last point you made, which is something that's not heard all that often, is the lack of skilled workers for SMEs. Why are there no skilled workers going into the smaller firms? Are the big firms just sucking up all the top manpower? What's happening?
Well, both in terms of demand and supply for these, skilled and smart young laborers, we have a problem. Well, in terms of the demand for these skilled laborers, definitely large companies have advantage of small companies, as large companies provide higher wages and, of course, better working conditions.
But in terms of the supply of these skilled workers, we have a problem too. A lot of young smart kids who just graduated from college, they do not want to go to small and medium-sized company, even though small and medium-sized company offer the same amount of wages as the large companies, because they do not see the future in small and medium-sized companies. So a lot of young college graduates, they prefer to go to large companies, even though the number of available jobs in large companies are pretty limited.
Yeah.
Well, that's a serious problem in our Korean labor market. We call it the mismatch between the supply and the labor, demand of the labor.
Yeah, okay, and this brings us to a sort of wider issue perhaps within the region. You know, Korea is famous for this very, very top-heavy economic structure. This is a country that's pretty much powered by the big firms as its economic locomotive. On the other hand, Taiwan, a competitor of Korea, is known for its many, many small and medium-sized companies. So very different economic models. You know, my question is it possible to have both of those in one economy, or does it have to be an either-or situation?
Well, I think it is feasible, but difficult to achieve. Of course, it would be more idealistic to have the both advantages in one single economy. And that's exactly why Korea is trying to promote the mid-sized companies.
Okay.
The mid-sized companies can have advantages of these two group of companies.
Okay.
Just like the small and medium-sized companies. Mid-sized companies can be flexible and they have a potential for further growth. And just like the large companies, they can actually attract more human resources, more better human resources, and they can access to financial services, and they can access to international market relatively easily than these small and medium-sized companies.
Okay. The Park administration is giving a lot more muscle to the Fair Trade Commission, so that's a positive step forward. But what are some of the other policies that the Park administration is putting in place to assist mid-sized companies to overcome some of the problems you mentioned earlier?
We have to look at this Peter Pan syndrome seriously. In terms of the number, once you graduate from the small and medium-sized company, then you lose something like 160 benefits, which used to be offered by the government. And then you have to embrace something like 190 regulations imposed by the government once you become a large company.
Right, that's going to hurt.
And similar story can be applied to the mid-sized company. If you graduate from the small and medium-sized companies, then you have to lose something like 80 benefits, which used to be offered by the government, and then new regulations of something like 20 or 30 new regulations will be imposed on these mid-sized companies. So the first job we need to do is to remove these regulations or reduce the number of regulations that we impose on these mid-sized companies. And that, I think, it has to be tackled by the government very seriously, because removing regulations was very difficult for almost any regime so far. And the other job is that we really have to set up support policies that is more specific to mid-sized companies. Government has a lot of programs that support small and medium-sized companies, but government has not established well-designed policies for mid-sized companies yet. Mid-sized companies are different from small and medium-sized companies in many aspects. They need different kinds of support. Instead of just giving money or giving financial loans to these mid-sized companies, mid-sized companies actually need something else, like
consulting,
consulting, or like R&D support.
Legal support, compliance
legal support maybe, yes. So that's what we need. And we do not have much experience yet how to support these mid-sized companies. As I told you, we only have something like 1,400 mid-sized companies in the economy, and the number is not growing as fast as we expected. So that's the job that this new government, Park Geun-hye government, has to achieve in the near future.
Okay. Well, last question for you. You're, as a professor here at Yonsei in the School of Economics, many of your students will soon be entering the job market. As you noted, most young people want to enter the chaebol, want to be part of the conglomerates. What would you say to those of your students who might be thinking of that? Would you want to change their minds?
Well, yes. I strongly encourage my students to widen their views on the job market. Big companies and financial companies are important too, but however, there are many other choices in the Korean job market, and also many other choices in foreign job market. So I encourage my students to look for further than these large companies and financial companies, and even look at small, medium-sized companies and mid-sized companies too. We do actually have a lot of jewels in the cream among the small and medium-sized companies, and it's as a young labor, that can be a perfect place for them to build up their experience.
And of course, these companies have not reached their economic potential by any means, so presumably there's much greater chance for expansion. Okay.
Exactly.
Let's hope your students have been watching this program. Professor, it's been a pleasure having you on. Thank you very much indeed.
A pleasure.
Borders are tumbling. Capital, business, and of course people are all now going global. And yet language barriers continue to divide us. Fortunately, of course, technology is riding to the rescue. There are now a range of technologies designed to overcome the language barrier. In our ICT segment, we'll be taking a look at some of these. They range from multiple language options on TV shows to a smartphone app that allows you to speak in real time to a foreigner in a foreign language without actually knowing that language.
We are living in a world where we can talk to a foreigner even if we don't know the language at all. This is possible as we can use the automatic translation service anytime and anywhere. Let's meet the automatic translation technology evolving more and more along with the development in ICT technologies. S-Translator is the translation service Samsung's Galaxy S4 smartphone provides. If you have this smartphone, you can communicate freely in China even if you don't know Chinese at all. Naver's smartphone text messaging service, Line, provides Japanese translation service. By using this application, you can talk to a Japanese friend via SNS even if you can't speak Japanese. As the real-time automatic translation technology develops, language barriers in our lives are gradually disappearing.
예전에는 컴퓨터를 사용해서 일본인 친구랑 대화하는데 오래 걸려가지고 좀 어려움이 있었는데 이 어플을 사용함으로써 일본인 친구랑 대화하는데 되게 간결하고 정확하게 빨리 쉽고 빠르게 대화할 수 있어서 자주 애용하고 있습니다.
When we use a well-known translation service to translate the Korean sentence, I want to have a pear to English, it mistranslates the sentence as translation service can't differentiate between pair and ship, which are homonyms in Korean. But a South Korean research institute has developed an automatic translation technology which further improved translation accuracy, taking into account the characteristics of the Korean language. Since last year, the research center has been providing a trial service of Genie Talk, an automatic speech translation application developed with its own technology.
한국어 같은 경우에 발음 변이라던가 어떤 음성적인 연음이라던가 이런 특성들이 많이 나타나는데요. 생략 현상, 그리고 축약 현상, 대화체의 또 특성에 따른 이제 어미의 변이 이런 것들이 많이 나타나게 됩니다. 이러한 부분들까지 저희가 세세하게 고려를 해서 저희 기계 번역 시스템에 반영을 해서 더 높은 성능을 나타내도록 노력하고 있습니다.
It can be used conveniently when you travel or when you are in the field, as it translates real time by recognizing voice as well as entering texts.
この近くで一番美味しい店はどこですか?
In particular, it boasts high voice recognition rate of 94%.
사람의 목소리나 발음들이 다 다르기 때문에 저희는 이제 수천 명 이상의 음성을 녹음을 받아서 그 음성마다 다 음소에 대한 분석을 실시해서 그 각 여러 가지 통계 패턴들을 만들어냅니다. 그 기준이 되는 패턴들을 가지고 있으면서 사용자가 실제 발성을 하게 되면 가장 유사한 음소를 찾아내서 음성 인식을 하게 됩니다.
From the database where voices of thousands of people are stored, it matches a voice that is most similar to the user's voice. The voice data recognized in this way will be transmitted to the central server.
사용자가 통역을 원하는 문장을 발송하게 되면 그 음성이 저희 서버로 실시간으로 전송을 하게 되고요. 저희 서버에서는 음성 인식, 기계 번역 과정을 거쳐서 사용자 스마트폰으로 다시 번역된 문장을 전달하게 됩니다.
Indeed, it boasts a massive vocabulary size of 270,000 words for Korean, 65,000 words for English, and 130,000 words for Japanese. After doing a survey on Genie Talk's functions and satisfaction levels to native English speakers, about 90% of the users evaluated it as above average and useful. A foreign language voice recognition service that can be used conveniently when multicultural families watch TV has also been developed. This is a technology that supports voice in users' own native language when watching TV. A multicultural family can choose a different language and watch TV at the same time by pressing a language button among 5 language choices: Chinese, Vietnamese, Tagalog, Japanese, and Cambodian, and putting on the earphones connected to a smartphone.
우리나라 말은 이제 방송을 통해서 받게 되고, 그다음에 타국어는 인터넷을 통해서 받게 되는데, 그 두 개의 언어를 셋탑박스, 스마트 TV 셋탑박스에서 동기화를 시켜서 한국어는 그대로 TV로 내보내게 되고, 그다음에 제3국의 언어는 셋탑박스에서 와이파이를 이용해서 스마트폰으로 연결해주고 스마트폰에 이어폰을 꽂고 들을 수 있는 그런 기술입니다.
So far, support for the 5 languages is limited to documentary programs. But if the multi-language audio production environment improves, various TV programs will be able to adopt multi-language broadcasting service in the entire world's languages.
지하철이라든지 그다음에 KTX, 버스 등에서 영상 신호는 보는데 오디오를 들을 수 없는 지금 환경이고, 그런 환경을 이제 개인이 가지고 있는 스마트폰을 이용해서 오디오도 들을 수 있는 형태로 제공을 해주려고 합니다. 그래서 외국인들이 탔을 때 그분들도 KTX에 있는 스크린을 보면서 그 나라 말로 자신의 언어를 들을 수 있는 그런 기술에 응용을 하려고 합니다.
Automatic translation technology is evolving more and more along with ICT technologies. Maybe there will come a day when we don't really have to study a foreign language anymore.
Good news! The Christmas and New Year holidays are not far off, and that means the party season will be in full swing. The bad news, after the party comes inevitably the hangover. But if you enjoy a tipple or two, stay with us, don't change channels, because we've got some good news. We'll be introducing a company that is marketing a herb tea, which it claims can cure your hangover with natural and healthy ingredients. This is certainly a product I'm interested in, so without further ado, let's meet this week's Hidden Champion.
When it comes to overcoming hangovers, there are a range of remedies in all corners of the world. In the United States, honey water is supposed to do the work. In Poland, people turn to yogurt. And in Greece, it's butter, while in China, raw eggs do the job of helping people get over a hangover. All of these methods are food that people consume after waking up from a night of heavy drinking. Then, how do Koreans come out of a hangover? According to a report published by the World Health Organization in 2011, an average Korean consumes 14.8 liters of alcohol in a year. This puts Korea at the 13th place in the world for the amount of alcohol consumption. The large amount of alcohol consumption by Koreans has created greater interest in looking for effective hangover remedies.
술을 먹기 전에 숙취해소 한 잔 마시고 술을 마시면은 근데 숙취해소가 거의 없더라고요. 아침에도 다음날 이렇게 머리가 말짱하고요.
많이 먹어야 될 때 그럴 때 먹으면은 그때 효과가 있는 것 같고, 그러니까 신경적으로도 저는 더 안 취한다 이렇게 더 작용하는 것 같더라고요.
At one convenience store located at a busy area in Seoul, office worker An Seung-gyun stops by to grab a hangover drink before he heads to a drinking occasion after work. The hangover drink that he has chosen is the Glami Dawn 808.
영업 중이라서 많이 먹는 편인데요. 이제 먹기 전에 이제 먹고 이제 술자리 시작하는데요. 뭐 이렇게 머리 아픈 것도 좀 덜하고 일어날 때도 아침에 편해가지고 저기 자주 애용하고 있습니다.
목요일하고 토요일에 가장 많이 팔리고 있습니다. 그리고 직장인들이 퇴근 시간 이후에 회식들이 있다 보니까 많이 사가시고, 그리고 20대 대학생분들도 많이 사가세요.
We visited the company Glami, which has created the world's first licensed hangover drinks that range from natural tea to the Dawn 808 drink, which take up a huge portion in the market. The name itself is a reminder of how much testing the company had to go through. Dawn 808 underwent 808 tests to become the final product. Glami's hangover drink leads the market mainly due to its natural substances with no added artificial preservatives. It is made from 100% natural ingredients that are used for Oriental medicine. Ingredients for the Dawn 808 drink include extracts from the elder tree, mountain ash, and honey. How effective is the drink that has substances that are also used in Oriental medicine?
오리나무는 한의학에서 적양이라는 한약재로 쓰이는데, 우리가 과음을 하게 되면 몸속에 열이 나는데 그 열을 꺼주는 역할을 하고요. 그리고 또 다른 한약재인 전공등이라는 한약재가 있는데, 이것은 흔히 마가목이라고 불려요. 과음으로 인해서 우리 몸속에 독소가 찬 것을 소변으로 배출시켜 주는 역할을 해서 숙취 해소에 좋다고 알려지고 있습니다.
When we drink alcohol, the liver takes care of the detoxification process, creating acetaldehyde, which is the main reason for hangovers. The Dawn 808 drink breaks down acetaldehyde, decreasing the alcohol concentration in the body, which has been proven through clinical testing.
이 오리나무하고 마가목 추출물을 이용해서 만든 이 천연차를 음용했을 때 혈중의 알코올 분해율이 더 빨리 이게 신속하게 이제 배설이 되고, 그 다음에 머리를 아프게 하는 숙취를 일으키는 그런 물질들이 더 빨리 이렇게 배설되는 것으로 그렇게 나타났습니다.
The effectiveness of the Dawn 808 drink is known in Korea and around the world. The drink product has received licenses from 11 countries, including the United States and Japan. Also, it has swept up one of the world's top 10 invention shows, becoming a 3-time winner at the United States Invention Show in Pittsburgh. The product has been recognized officially as being non-toxic to the body by the United States FDA, providing confidence for any user of its safety. The company plans to turn its attention to the overseas market, going beyond the success at home, with the ambition to heal the hangover of the global community. The company has put in a lot of effort and experience-oriented marketing in order to get the attention of overseas buyers who have doubts that the drink's Oriental medicine flavor can be liked by foreigners.
실질적으로 현장에서 체험할 수 있도록 체험 마케팅을 하고요. 그들이 먹어보고 바로 음주 측정기로 측정도 해보고 여러 가지 측정할 수 있는 여러 가지 방법을 그들에게 외국인들에게 설명해줘서 그들이 먹어보고 좋으니까 다시 사가고, 이래서 세계 시장을 지금 많은 나라에 지금 수출이 되어 가고 있습니다. 그 나라 사람들이 가장 좋아하는 그런 입맛으로 바꾸는 노력을 저희 연구진들이 하지요. 그래서 나라마다 제품이 나갈 때 조금씩 다릅니다.
Thanks to the experience-based marketing and flavors that fit the taste of each nation, the hangover drink Dawn 808 is being exported to some 13 nations, including the United States, China, Russia, and Mexico. The overseas success has paved the way for a new world culture for hangover cures.
저희는 지금도 많은 연구를 하고 있습니다. 특히 화상 치료제, 또 아토피 치료제 같은 이런 치료제를 지금 발명을 해서 지금 임상 시험을 하고 지금 제품을 생산할 준비까지 해가고 있습니다.
Glami has the goal to develop other new treatments, followed by its success in hangover healing through its natural tea and drinks like Dawn 808. It is gearing up to become a total healthcare company that puts the health of the global community first.
trials and tribulations faced by North Korean defectors are hard and long. In our North Korean segment, we'll be hearing the story of Kim Eun-ju, a young North Korean woman in her 20s, how she escaped from her home country and then spent 9 perilous years in China and Mongolia before finally reaching safety here in South Korea. When listening to her testimony, it's important to realize this is not the story just of one woman. Kim Eun-ju's experiences are shared by thousands of desperate North Koreans, all seeking to find a better life here in the South.
In December 1997, an 11-year-old girl in fear of starving to death wrote her will in a tiny, cold apartment in Eundok, Hamgyeongbuk-do, North Korea. 9 years later, the girl came to Seoul, South Korea, but it had been a long and difficult journey that no ordinary person could imagine, one that could have taken her life. Kim Eun-ju, the co-author of an 11-year-old's will, she is now a 28-year-old college student in Seoul. 15 years ago, she couldn't have imagined living an ordinary life. From Eundok in Hamgyeongbuk-do to Seoul, Eun-ju risked her life to cross the border between China and North Korea twice. That's just the tip of an iceberg of her painful journey to escape North Korea. She endured 9 years desperately trying to survive.
Yes, at that time in North Korea had a huge starvation, huge famine. So many people died because of hunger. So in my family, we also didn't have any food. We decided to go to China, and my mom said, die here or die through the way to escape North Korea. It's same, die. So we had to try. Yeah, we had to. That's why. Only for food, only for survive.
She was not the only one. Chronic food shortages and economic recession have forced many North Koreans to leave their home country since the late 1990s. Financial concerns are still the main reason for many North Korean people to abandon their motherland even after North Korea claimed the end of the arduous march in 2000. The Great Famine, or the Arduous March, swept across the isolated Stalinist state from the mid to late 1990s, prompting 500,000 to 1 million North Koreans to die of starvation or hunger-related illnesses, according to the United Nations census-based data. Many children whose parents died also became got-jebis, wandering the streets during the arduous march.
Sometimes I would catch some food from the ground, so I was got-jebi. So I realized, I'm got-jebi. It was very sad when I accept that thing, but and we had to live in the mountain, we had to live under the bridge.
Discontent of North Korean regime is another major reason forcing the North Korea people to flee. In particular, many escapees recall the horror of the regime's systematic violations of human rights, ranging from infringing on rights to eat to public execution. Eun-ju was a witness to North Korea's human rights abuses too.
We had to watch execution. It's kind of education to us. When I watched the execution at first time, I felt something, I don't know how to say, bad or something uncomfortable. However, when I watched twice or 3 times, more than 3 times, you feel nothing. After I came to South Korea, I reminded again, and I feel like it's very off. Just 9 or 10 years kids. The scene is very terrible.
For those who flee the dire situation in the reclusive socialist country, it is not easy to enjoy freedom. In particular, many female defectors are exposed to the danger of human trafficking in China.
Actually, we didn't know anyone in China. We met a woman. At first time, she was very kind. She said, If we wanted to live in China safely, it would be better my mom meet a Chinese guy to get married with him. My mom agreed with her, and she also thought maybe that's the only way to live in China safely. But after 1 year, we lived with the Chinese man, we realized we were sold.
Defectors also have to live in China in fear of being forced back, as they have entered the neighboring country illegally.
Whenever the police siren ringing, our heart beat very fast. Even they will not come to catch us. When we were in the farmer's house, in the Chinese man's house, sometimes we had to sleep in the mountain, even in China, because we didn't know when the police come, and yeah.
Eunju's family and she were arrested by the Chinese police and sent back to North Korea in 2002, 4 years after they crossed the border to China. Seoul-based non-government organizations covering North Korean issues say about 2,000 North Koreans living in China are repatriated every year. While some people like Eunju are lucky to escape the country twice, many North Koreans repatriated to the north generally face bleak situations. Many people are sent to labor camps where they are forced to work without any human rights.
I miss my hometown. I miss North Korea a lot. When we sent back to North Korea, we realized there is no one welcome us. There is no one try to help us. We were just human trash. We couldn't expect anything.
After crossing the border along China again, Eunju and her family worked hard in China to gather enough money to pay a broker who could take them to South Korea. Many flee North Korea to escape the bleak situation there, but they come to realize that things aren't much different across the border. Through her book, An 11-Year-Old's Will, Eunju wants people to care about the North Koreans who have suffered under the Kim family dictatorship.
I met many North Korean defectors, and I had very interested about North Korea and human rights, and I had more chance to watch and see that kind of situation. So it reminds me about my past, and I realized it's not my past, it's present, it's now. It's happening in North Korea now, it's happening in China now. I have to write this. I had to let people know about North Korea.
Eunju can't forget the night when she was forced back to North Korea. She had no choice but to escape her home country again to survive. Still, she dreams of going to her hometown to visit her father's grave by taking a train bound for Pyongyang from Seoul Station someday.
And that's all we have time for on Bizline this week. But do join us next week. We'll be examining the results of President Park Geun-hye's visit to Western Europe. We'll also be seeing what prominent international media and global institutions have to say about the current state of South Korea's economy. So do stay with us. But for now, that's all we have. I'm Andrew Salmon. This was Bizline. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.